Morning, Trainiacs. So it's just a cruisy little 2,200 meter swim because I am all done. 3 weeks of keto triathlon training adaptation. Thank goodness. Time to absorb that work. There was a heck of a lot learned in those 3 weeks. It isn't as easy as you expect. Performance really changes, and how to eat on it was challenging. All right, Trainiacs, let's talk about the results from 3 weeks of keto triathlon training. Let's just, come on. We're gonna talk, Pete, stop showing your bum. We're gonna talk about this in 3 separate parts. The first being diet, the second being the adaptation period, the keto flu, how it actually felt going through it, and the third part being performance. How did I actually do on this keto diet? So what we did was for 3 weeks, we brought my carbs down to under 50 grams per day. And these are not keto carbs that are like net carbs that doesn't count things like fiber or sweeteners. This is carbs, straight up carbs. From that standpoint, found it very hard at the start to actually keep my carbs under that. There are carbs in everything that you don't realize. Nut butters, peanut butter, avocado have carbs in it. So what I did was I ended up using an app called Senza where you input all of your food and you can actually then hook up with other people and see what they're eating. So in my case, I looked at what Dr. Dan Plews, the guy that's helping me out with this, he's eating, and it starts giving you a sense of how easy it is to start racking up those carbs and how hard it is to keep it under 50 grams. What did I eat most days? Well, I wanted to do this healthy. So we're not talking about all the keto shakes and this and that are all designed to be keto, that are just frankenfoods. This is also meant to be a healthy decision. So it was a lot of natural foods. We're talking avocados, nut butters, eggs, natural meats, things like that. Now, vegans, you are going to have a very, very tough time with this. If you decide to go at it from the standpoint of being an unhealthy keto athlete where you are having like the keto donuts and things like that, maybe a little bit easier because those are made with coconut flour, almond flour, things like that. But those are really processed foods and I think undoes a lot of the work that you're trying to do with keto, even though I would say that it's not necessarily the healthiest decision, especially for endurance athletes. The reason that it's going to be hard for vegans is because, as I mentioned, there are a lot of like trace carbs that add up over the course of a day when you're eating a lot as an endurance athlete. Those nut butters, the avocados, things like that, to keep your carbs really, really low, animal products is what I found had to work the best. So natural pepperoni, natural bacon, sardines, salmon salads, and then I wouldn't ever seek to take in carbs. I would just get these hidden trace carbs and magically at the end of the day, I would be bumping all the way up to about 50 grams of net carbs. So it's really quite hard to do, especially if you're looking at getting it from natural sources. As far as the keto flu goes, the adaptation period, this is like the dreaded period that everyone hears about, that the keto process of getting adapted to it is like hell. And this is a period somewhere in between about day 4 and 7 or 8 that a lot of people report they feel flu-like symptoms. They feel sick. They feel like they don't have any energy. They want to do nothing but sleep. Obviously don't really want to go out and train. I experienced some of these, not a ton. As we found out with some of the fat oxidation training, my ability to oxidize fat, use fat as fuel is actually quite high. It's about 1.2 grams per minute, whereas a lot of people that have been eating a very carb-heavy diet or haven't trained a lot for years on end might be somewhere down around 0.4 grams of carbs per minute. This is going to end up resulting in when you lower your carbs down to nothing and your body has to then try to find glucose for energy somewhere. It's not going to be able to get it from carbs because there are no carbs coming in. It's not going to be able to get it from fat because it can't actually access the fat. So the body is starved of energy, and this is where the keto flu comes in. because my fat oxidation levels are a little bit higher, I didn't really feel a serious detriment. I felt instead kind of a low level of crap. Day 5, I did feel a little bit of brain fog. I started the coffee maker without actually putting coffee in it, just heated up water came out. Around the same time, I needed to take a couple of naps, and I needed to have like a down day, so I basically either trained, recorded a video, or stayed on the couch, and actually that's what I do most days. But I was even more lazy on those days. A few of the things that I did notice significantly that happened over the course of the entire period that let me know that this isn't necessarily like an all-around healthy thing is I was really stuffed up. I had a lot of inflammation. My body was quite sore. My feet were quite sore. My nose was like cracking and I couldn't breathe out of it towards the end of it because I'd just been so puffed up and inflamed for so long that I wasn't breathing quite right. My HRV was lower, and it was so low to the point that during the last 5 days, the Plus, he was basically laughing. And he said, yeah, this is part of it. Basically, every study he's ever done that showed what happens over the course of a 2 to 3 week keto adaptation period. In the 2nd or 3rd week, all subjects have an HRV rating, which is an indication of how prepared your body is, went in the tank. And mine went in the tank. My sleep was also off. Some nights I'd get about 5 hours of sleep. On a really good night, I would get around 7 to 8 hours sleep, and it was very tossy and turny, and the readings from the Oura Ring weren't very good. So that then exasperated the difficulties that I had with inflammation because I wasn't recovering a lot. I also wasn't feeling great. And because I wasn't feeling great, I wasn't recovering a lot. It was this vicious cycle. And by the end of it, I was ready to be done. I did have some painful hunger cravings from about day 7 to 15, like really, really hungry right here, just ravenous. And that's then related to a function of the adaptation process. When you want to do keto clean, I found it actually hard to get enough calories in. Now, because I'm doing very key training right now where I'm not intended to underfuel myself, I'm not supposed to be losing weight because when you're losing weight, it's very hard for your body to actually make adaptations and gains. So during this time, I was very conscious to make sure that I took my base metabolic rate, take about my body weight, multiply it by 15, add on the amount of calories that you burn each day. That's about what you need to maintain and potentially make some gains. So I was really conscious to stay around that. And because of it, I didn't lose any weight on this. That's one thing to really, really consider with keto adaptation periods for endurance training. If it's done well, it's not meant to lose weight for you. That relates a lot to weight management. I did not lose any weight on this, and I was very conscious to do that because I am training to perform well. I'm not training to be thin. Those are kind of at odds with each other. If you want to be very thin, you have to restrict calories, unless you're in a group of about 5% of the population that can eat a pile of fat beyond what you're burning throughout the day and still lose weight. If you're in that other 95% of the population, odds are that to lose weight, you're going to have to restrict calories. And when you're restricting calories as an endurance athlete that's training hard, you are not going to make progress, and you're potentially opening the door for hormonal and sickness issues, injury issues, all of these things that we are trying to avoid. So my weight was completely stable. I started right around 154.5 pounds. I ended right around 154.5 pounds. I did, however, have Easter dinner where I had 2 glasses of wine and 1 plate of carbs. I didn't go crazy overboard, but my system was so inflamed and so delicate and beat down at that point that the inflammation and water retention shot up, and I ended up gaining about 4 pounds overnight that took me 4 days to end up losing. So these are all indications that this keto period is not necessarily extremely healthy. That's why it's temporary. So let's get into performance. How did I actually perform throughout this? A lot of people, when they get onto a keto process, they say, all right, because you're gonna lose your top end, you've gotta do your training really, really low and bring your training volume down. Instead, what we did was we kept the training volume fairly high. We did 3 15-hour roughly weeks, but the vast majority of the training, around 85 to 95% of it, was really low intensity, zones 1 and 2. But we had a couple of times each week that we did really big intensity. Why we did this is because there's so much stress on the body with the keto diet itself. We don't want to stress the body too much more by increasing the training intensity. So we keep the volume fairly low and easy. Why we have that really high day is because the studies show that if you can have just one stimulation of like really crazy intense efforts, you can maintain some of the hormones that keep that top end. What did I experience? Those crazy intense days, they sucked. They really, really sucked. I likened it to how Harry Potter must have felt when the Dementors were trying to suck out his soul. I thought I'd never be happy again. And during those crazy intense periods, for the first day, went okay. Second day, awful. By the end of the week, I was able to hit about 120 watts on the bike at peak effort. So I was able to maintain some of those hard efforts, but I wasn't able to sustain it at all. All of the 50s and hard hundreds that I was doing in the pool, they were tremendously slow. Bonus, however, was that the low intensity stuff, the long run, the long rides, the steady endurance stuff, it felt like I could go all day. I did a run yesterday with Kim where she rode beside me, and at the end of an hour and 50 minutes, it felt basically the same as at minute 5. So what are the key takeaways to this? Well, really, I've got 3. Number 1, this is not meant to be a long-term thing. Why we've done this 3-week keto adaptation period is to basically force my body to learn how to burn fat as fuel, and it does that in a state of training paired with carb deprivation. If we maintain the training, we say, all right, we've got to train, we're going to train day after day, and we're going to do it for 3 weeks, but you don't get to have any carbs, the body is going to figure out how to burn something else as fuel. And as long as we keep that intensity fairly low, which encourages using fat as fuel, the body's going to become better at using fat as fuel. And the reason that we don't want to do this long term is frankly because it's not necessarily terribly healthy for the vast majority of the population. Endurance athletes can also get a lot of the benefits of a keto diet at around 100 to 150 grams of carbs per day because we burn off so much. Likewise with fasting, whereas a lot of people, if they're not active, need a 16 to 18 hour fast to get some of the autophagy benefits and things like that. We can do it with about 12 hours because we are burning off so much of our carbs. So it's a tool, it's not a lifestyle. And this is what Dan Plews recommends. This is what all the athletes who are trained by him recommend. This is what is recommended in the What the Fat book. This is a temporary process. And if we think about how humans evolved, where keto is a thing that can be useful and can be helpful, it evolved because cavemen had periods of starvation and then periods of gluttony where they ate a lot. They weren't just constantly in a state of deprivation. So they would sometimes be in keto, sometimes not. And that's the point of this. Use it as a tool, not as an all-the-time thing. Second thing is that this is not about high performance. The stories and Instagram videos that you see where you've got weightlifters that are putting out personal best, crushing huge deadlifts and things like that after a period of keto, they're not actually showing the results of keto because it's a different system. Those really intense videos that you see, they tap into what's called the alactic energy system. And that's essentially just like raw, gritty power that doesn't access the glycogen in your muscles really at all. It's just going off of ATP, and you can fake that without needing any carbs, without needing much calories, while being in a state of ketosis. But for all of us high-performing athletes that do something that lasts longer than 10 seconds, we aren't going to perform as well. The idea is that you use keto as a tool. You train with low carbs, but you have to also train yourself to function at a high level with high carbs. It's about train low, race high. And the third thing is that this is not for everyone. Every single diet has a bell curve where there are people who will react a certain way that is fairly predictable right in the middle. There are certain people who will react amazingly over on the end. But there are a good amount of people that won't react very well over on the side. My mom, for instance, she tried to do keto a couple months ago. She actually gained about 10 pounds and felt awful for the month that she did it. This is actually one of the demographics that tends not to do well. Older ladies around the age that menopause will be setting in have a very high likelihood of this not doing very well for them. People who it will work well for tend to be more hormonally stable people who aren't yet quite active. So we're talking males that are overweight that haven't yet adopted a training plan that is very intense. People like me will see some results from it, might not do so well on it. The chunk in the middle, however, will probably see some mixed results. Some will do better, some will do worse, but there's somewhere around 40 to 60% of the population that will see some benefits from it. On the very far end, there is a good chunk of the population that will do extremely well on severe carb depletion. But those are the exceptions, not the norm. So I'd love to tell you that this is as black and white as everyone should be keto is great, and you just need to eat keto all the time. That would be simple, but dieting is not that simple when you start getting to the extremes like this. And I think that the right approach is done temporarily, coming in and out of things like keto with a lot of background information on when, how, and why to apply it, and with the right people helping you, because there are a lot of nuances that can be missed that can lead to some severe problems if it's not done properly. And with all that said, the best place to go and find out about that, start on this process, is triathlontaren.com/theplues, where that's a starter pack for Dan Plews that he's put together with me to help get people at least started in the right track for lower carb, higher fat, and utilizing keto in the right way. And with that said, hit the subscribe button below, because most of our videos are much shorter than this. We got 22 minutes of footage. So not all videos are this long. Hit that subscribe button below to see more of the dogs. Petey's out. Me too.